Hello, everybody. This is Love from Above from your Sibling Spirit Guides. I'm Maureen, and this is my brother.
Hi, everyone. This is Brian.
Hi, Brian. I'm so excited for this podcast. So on this podcast, we share channelings we receive from star beings, ascended masters, and our ancestors. And this one, Brian, how much information have we got about historical beings? So many from Barack Obama to
George
Joan.
Washington. Yeah.
Yeah, can you think of some others that come through? Joan of Arc, Napoleon,
Yeah.
just
I mean, just so many. So that's what I do. Yeah, we do need to start going through all of those different ones. But I think you're starting off with a good one. That's starting with the original
I'm
of
starting with
the.
Eve, baby.
Yeah.
And what was interesting about this is I went back and listened, Brian, this was so interesting. So our first channeling that we received, and this was totally unexpected. We expected to hear from Thoth, who said we should begin channeling. And instead of Thoth, we heard from these group of beings from Aura. And I listened recently, Brian, to that first session, and it's really interesting. And of course, what better way to begin a session than with Eve? So they said, today the instruction shall begin. We wish to cover the history of this planet. It shall begin with an Eve, not an Adam. Now, Brian, let me say that sentence again. It shall begin with an Eve, not an Adam. Like, doesn't that just make so much sense? If
Yeah.
you're
Well,
going to,
we know so much from the Bible. It's just been twisted and isn't the reality, right? And so I know read that book on Jesus and the scenes and how he was, you know, all about meditation and all positive things and all the negative stuff. And, and like we've talked everything to so many things in the Bible have just been just crafted to suit the needs of the church. And so yeah, it's really interesting. I know we were just talking about how there is this um, sort of whole effort on those in power to sort of put down women and have women not in control and I mean that's part of it too. So yeah, very interesting.
yeah, and I was telling Brian, so I used to read the Bible a lot when I was a kid, and I didn't realize it was like a holy book. And famously, I asked my aunt, who was a nun, if she ever read about the Bible because I had read it 3 times. But reading the story about Eve, it just really kind of made me feel bad. And the Eve was built out of after Adam, and that out of a rib from one of Adam's rib, it's like she's less than. But think about it. If you're going to start a species, um, it makes more sense to start with a woman. I think about this painting that's in the Musée d'Orsay in Paris, and it's this very close up of a woman's genitalia, and the painting's entitled something like Life, because all of us began life through a woman's body. I mean, that's just everybody. And so I just had to stop there with it shall begin with an Eve, not an Adam. That makes so much more sense than the stories that I read in my childhood Bible. So do you want to continue on with what else they said in that session?
Yeah, yes, they said the original Eve came from the stars, a mother prototype built for the expansion of certain colonies. And so I don't know, this is interesting. I've read so many books of different that star seeds that different groups talk about how they seeded the planet with different beings. Um, so I'm not sure exactly, where Eve came from, but yeah, this makes total sense. Um, what are your thoughts on that, Maureen?
Yeah, there's I think of the book, I think Urantia, that book also, I think, goes in line with that. I mean, I think it's been like a decade since I've read that book, but there's a lot of this information that is in the channel sessions we're reporting on today. Like you can find this information on YouTube, and books on Gaia TV. So yeah, so they went on in that session to say this Eve 901 struggled with her position. She had fallen in love with a snake known as Enki. Enki was to be a father figure. His corruption in this role has not been forgotten. The original plan dematerialized quickly. We shall say no more about those troubled, no difficult times. And then we got another session. So that was on our first session on the fall equinox. And then the next one, you want to go over this one, Brian? This was months later in February, and this comes from the Watchers. Do you want to go over like
Yeah.
who the Watchers are?
Yeah, so we get a lot of message from the Watchers, and they they watch over all of creation throughout time and space. And so they said on February 11th, we are the Watchers. We begin with another tutorial in the true history of your loving planet. And this is a little break here. This is one thing, a lot of the books we've read, that our history is not the true history. There's so much that has been hidden. There's so much. Everything is now I'm gonna sound like a kook, but you know, I just come with things that open mind, and there's so many books that talk about the true history that, but that's probably a whole number of sessions we can have on that. But known as the blue planets for its unusual color. So they go on to talk about the story of Adam and Eve has been absconded. There was, I love that. There was indeed an Eve. The Adam was not so named. He was a son of an Adam. Um, an Adam for the name of the sons. How do you say that more? Nephilim?
The Neliflim.
Yeah. So you can go on and sort of explain this a little bit more than I can.
Yeah, so this took me a while to figure out. And I don't know if any of you, so Brian and I were raised Catholic, and there's just such a difference between like the Old Testament with like this angry God and like the New Testament with like Jesus and love rules everything. And it took me a while to figure this out. Like, what is that difference? And the difference, and again, all of this information is documented on YouTube, on Gaia TV, and books. Most recently, like I reread The 12th Planet by Zachariah Sitchin, and the story of Adam and Eve was actually the story of the Nephilim. So the angry God was actually Enlil, and the God who helped the humans was Enki, who was actually demonized in this Adam and Eve story as a snake. And so that's what was going on here. And they went on to say, so the Adam was a name for actually the sons of the Nephilim. They said those were the days when the gods walked among the peoples of your planets as equal. As your stories regale, some gods were more endeared to the local population than others, depending upon their specialty. Of course, the gods were mistaken as the one creator because of their advancement in technology, just as you would be as hailed as gods today. So yeah, so I mean, they had all of this technology, and people recognized them as gods, as the god, when they were actually star beings from another planet. And then this is really interesting. So on February 20th, Enlil came forward, who again was like the angry god in this Adam and Eve story. And he came forward to give us his version of the Adam and Eve story. And just to note that after this, Thoth put a stop for him channeling through me because he said that Enlil was trying to revise history and that he wouldn't permit that. But this is really interesting. So this is from Enlil, who was the angry god in the Adam and Eve story. Brian, you want to read what I channeled for that one?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, real quick, I was going to just, I know in the past we've talked about him as Thoth, but you got some guidance that that's now, it should be pronounced, it's Thoth. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, so I was always saying Thoth, that was how I thought that you pronounced his name. And then I'm rereading again, I think for like the third time, that wonderful book by drunken Brian, I can never remember the title of the book. Do you remember that? It's like The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life. I
That's
don't
it.
remember.
The Ancient Secret of Our Life,
It's a really
Volume
long
1 and 2.
It's a really long title, but anyway, in that he talks about the correct pronunciation is Thoth, and Thoth channeled with me, and he was like, "Yeah, Nat, you finally learned how to say my name, pronounce my name correctly, and so please do pronounce it correctly from now on." So yeah, so we are not calling him Thoth anymore, but Thoth, which is the correct name. And again, he was Hermes Trismegistus, am I saying that correct? But well, I won't even go
Yeah,
into
so many
all.
different names. But anyway,
Yeah.
back to the story. So this on February 20th, this is Enlil that came to us, and it says, "It is I'm the one known as Enlil in the fabled history of your early planet. I come forth from Mount Meru, where I reside with a host of my brethren." Just real quick, where's Mount Meru?
Okay,
No.
this is a synchronicity, Brian. I didn't even realize when I was putting this podcast together. I am like a few kilometers from Mount Meru. I had never even heard of it. Is that an amazing synchronicity? Are you kidding me? People, I'm in Arusha, Tanzania, which is, I mean, it's in northern Tanzania. And I looked on, Brian can track me on this app called Life 360. And when I get to a new place, I like to look at it just to see where I am. And the closest, landmark is Mount Meru, or however you
Neighbor.
pronounce it. I'm like, this is an unbelievable. So yeah,
Okay.
apparently I'm very close to him right now.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. So we watch over, he goes on to say, we watch over all humanity, noting their activities. So I guess that's interesting, sort of like the Watchers. It's a harmless pastime we engage in. Interesting. It's like we're the TV for them. I, for one, enjoy watching the combative sports of your illustrious planet. So combative sports, so maybe like football and stuff. So, um, but yeah, I'll go a little further and then you take it from here. But I said he goes on to say, I wish to address the concept, the fable, the story of Adam and Eve. I would never erupt in anger over a inconsequential event such as been reported. Uh, this has been grossly misrepresentative over the long area of time. Yeah, Eve was indeed Eve, but Adam was the son of Ammon. They left on their own accord. It wasn't an apple that they ate, it was a fermented fruit. So, yeah. What is he talking about, Maureen? Why don't you explain this?
Yeah, so then I went on to channel, and I break off sometimes when I channel when I get more information, and I could just see that it wasn't an apple, it was a fermented fruit, and it came to me that it was like taking mushrooms or LSD or something like that, where it awakens you to a different reality, and then you just can't go back to normal. And then Enlil said that this is correct. They left on their own accord, feeling an unworthiness to belong in the higher realms. I may have initially responded in shock with their betrayal of the code, which was established. However, my concern for them was great. So again, I just think it's really interesting. We've got three different perspectives on the Eve story. And I'm gonna say it just makes a lot more sense to begin populating a planet with an Eve than with an Adam. And yeah, and then we have one more story with regards to Enki and Noah, which was kind of interesting that I thought I would throw in here. So Brian, do you want to go over that one?
Yeah, I'll start it and then you can pick it up. So this was February 8th from the Watchers, and it says the days of wine and feasting is our present terms for the days when gods walked among you. There was much feasting to be as the gods assisted humankind. Some were more helpful than others, as related in the mythology of your peoples. So that's one thing I do find, like all the you really all the myths and fables, they're really true. I mean, there might be some not exactly correct, but there really is a lot of truth to the mythology. So I find that very interesting. I know you know a lot more about the mythology than I do, but it's very interesting to me.
Yeah, and I will tell you as a seer, like all the mythology is true. Like there are fairies, there are tree beings, there are one of the last ones that I came across was giants. And I was actually in Ireland and I was like, oh my God, there really are giants, you know? So all of that mythology is true. And, you know, this history of the gods walking among us, I mean, that's in, you know, Roman mythology, Greek mythology. It's also within the holy books of the Hindu religion. So, you know, I mean, I think, again, when I'm traveling through the world and you see all of these similarities, I mean, there's unifying underneath it is a basic truth that you cannot deny.
Yeah, exactly. So this is interesting. So they go on to say this period of time ended because of one human. We turned to Enki. Yeah, we're not casting blame, but anyway, we turned to Enki, who served as a guardian for mankind, and the existence of your planet and its people would not continue without his undying support. He saved the planet many times. Uh, so that is
Yeah.
very
And then
interesting.
I want to go into the story of Noah because my son is named after Noah. So this is so interesting. The story of Noah is inaccurately portrayed. Noah wasn't selected by Enki. Noah barraged, tricked, cajoled, forced Enki to reveal his hand. They were neighbors and friends and commonly played a game no longer in your lexicon. It was in a drunken stupor that Enki revealed a portion of the plans for the destruction of humankind. The gods had had enough, specifically Enki's brother Enlil. Noah demanded a way out for his family. He was not chosen as an idyllic figure. He was a warrior, a tough guy, a begrudging kind of guy. There were many others too who were saved in different parts of the world. Their stories, as often happens, one story is remembered, but there were many, which again makes so much sense. I mean, so much sense. And also, Brian, if the world was going to end, like I think I would talk to some of my friends and neighbors, you know, and if Enki was my neighbor, I think that they would believe me, you know. So again, this just makes much more sense than, you know, the stories that we were taught as children.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I mean. So there's some part of truth to them, but it's not exactly the truth. But it is so interesting to get the actual truth from what happened back in those times and understand things with a broader perspective. So yeah, I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, and well, you know, let us know if you're interested in this because, like I said, there's a lot of information on a lot of historical figures, and we could, we could really go, Brian, don't you think we could do like 100 episodes on,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
I know. And the other thing is, it's like never ending because we are constantly getting new stuff on a daily basis. So it is a little overwhelming at times. There's so much information, but again, we are working on our volume one of, a book that has all this documentation, and we've been instructed they just want it. We're not gonna. I was thinking we had to like categorize things and put like things together. They just want it the true channelings of what was spoken and accurately uh, depicted in a book. So we're working on volume one to be coming out sometime. Who knows when? But that's something that's a project we're actively working on. So you'll be able to read all these different channelings and understand all of this information yourself.
and you know what, one thing, Brian, I'm thinking about right now, which I've never thought about before, I am really grateful. I mean, we both have read a lot of channeled works, and the language of this is really, it's easy to listen to. It's like a story. And remember when we went through the law of one, like that, that took
Oh
like a
yeah.
year, and it's very, what do they refer to human beings as the mind, body, spirit complex, and you kind of have to get used to the language before you can understand what's being said. So I'm
And
really,
you remember, there's another guy, Paul something. Remember?
yeah,
He's
yeah,
got all
Paul
these
Selig.
books are like top rated we look at Goodreads. So they're top rated on Goodreads, but they are just so hard to read. And so, yeah, we appreciate that they
Yeah.
speak in easy to understand language.
And I know you appreciate, sometimes they have humor. Like sometimes they're funny. So like those saying to me, like, okay, now you know how to pronounce my name. Please use it correctly. So yeah, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, do you want to close things out, Maureen?
Yeah, so thank you, everybody, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week. From your Sibling Spirit Guides, we sign off.
Bye, everyone.